Good morning. We have a little bit of a smaller group this morning, but that's okay. It's kind of good, actually. I'm sure some more will be streaming in later on. Hope y'all had a good time last night, even though the open bar was short-lived, but that's okay. And it was just great seeing the network. I'm going to turn it over to you, Wendy, my dear.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start off by demonstrating some things, and then we're going to talk about the training. Do you want me to cut off at 8:30 so that we go on to the next one?
Yeah, you can have a little more time.
Let me know when there's like 10 minutes left so I can go on to the training part if I'm carrying over with demonstration. Okay? Basically, I'm just going to start showing you what's possible. That works. It opened them, but usually I can pull it open at the top. Okay, well, today's going to be one of those days too. I have learned through my lifetime, and I'm very blessed that I had a mother like I had, because she made sure that I learned to do stuff with my baby dolls. She actually made baby doll clothes with snaps and buttons and things with the larger buttonholes and things so that I could practice all those things and learn how to do it. Barbie doll clothes and everything with little itty bitty snaps. And I was able to develop, because I was born this way, I started using my feet right away, so I have developed really extraordinary skills. I can type 45 words a minute with 3 errors or less. I've actually hit 50 words a minute. I'm a lot slower on a computer because of the touch difference. I don't know how many of you remember typewriters, but there are some. I've learned to do, and it's interesting because I watched some of this stuff. I just want to tell you, I don't have any of my pictures. My whole bag was gone, and so all my handouts, everything I have, aren't with me. But I drive a car with no special adaptations at all. So it's interesting to me when I go to a rental car place and they say, "Do you need hand controls?" And I go, "No, not exactly." But it's kind of funny because there are a lot of people without arms who do that because of the reaching and that, and they do it this way. And I have a friend who's very short. But I steer with my left foot, and I brake and accelerate with my right foot. When I turn a wheel, I keep my foot in touch with the wheel. And I've driven all over the United States. I've driven into New York City, Manhattan, and handed the guys the keys and went, "Cool, I made it." And actually, my dad had already passed away, and I wished he was still alive so I could tell him I drove into New York. So some of the things that I do one of the favorite things I always do when I do motivational speaking, not only as a consultant, but I am a motivational speaker. And it's the joy of my life to be able to do this kind of thing and help people. And one of the things the kids get the biggest bang out of is opening up a can of soda. And what I do is I push down on the tab where the circle is that you're going to drink out of, and I hook my baby toe underneath the other side. And I really hate tonic water, so you won't see me drink much of it. But that's how, okay? All right. Washing my hair. This is mouthwash, so don't get confused. And yesterday I made a big mistake and conditioned my hair with hand lotion. Don't make that mistake. But what I do is I take the cap off, and I'll be putting it right back on. Okay? Oh, cool, it's got a thing. What I do is I pour it here. I wash my hair on this side. And I pour it on top of my foot. And I do the other side. Now, let me tell you, I miss my garden tub because these little itty bitty bathtubs, the shower heads here are not strong enough to get the soap out of my hair. So at home, I rinse my hair underneath the faucet. So I'm like this, underneath the faucet, rinsing my hair. It's been a challenge the last 2 days here. But that's how I do that. I learned, one of the coolest things I learned, of course, after college, I was a high school All-American springboard diver, ladies and gentlemen, and I dived collegiately for 2 years at the University of Florida. And one of the coolest things I learned to do that I'd always wanted to do is I learned to wrap a towel around my head and to wrap my hair. Because I have such thick hair, it needs to be in a towel, just brushing it out with a... And what I do is I put the towel over my head, and I grab one side in my teeth, like this, and then I take the other side, and I actually hook the towels here to hold them still, and I wrap that around and then flip it up over my head. And that's one of the neatest things I've learned later on that I hadn't developed. But I have learned such dexterity. I know yesterday somebody was talking about a flip phone, and by the way, I don't like them much. But I use a flip phone. I do not text just because I don't think texting is a good communication skill. So I don't text. And I do not drive and talk on the phone. Okay? In fact, my friends are so well trained that if I don't answer it, they wait because I'm probably pulling over somewhere so I can call them back. Try not to get that spread all over my face. And I'm not going to waste this Band-Aid when I open it because I took out a piece of my skin yesterday. Are you seeing this okay, Hunter? And I can't reach where it was. I had somebody else put it on yesterday. But what I would do at home if I was alone, I would actually do it in the mirror so that I could see where I'm going to put it. Okay? I have become so dexterous that before my grandma died, made her crazy. She couldn't do Ziplocs. And I brought a little itty bitty teeny tiny one just to prove I could. By the way, anybody want to check it, make sure it's really hooked? Okay. This is not a magic trick. It's open and you get your stamps out. Okay? This is just one of those nice little mint things, but it's got a very small little opening. Very handy dandy. Okay, toothbrush and toothpaste. All right, this is a new one. Let's see how this one works. I ordinarily wouldn't use one of these, obviously. There must be a trick. Okay, I don't get it. So we'll punt. I'm good at that. Put the toothpaste on. Imagine, okay. Okay. Now yesterday, this isn't the right color, I don't think, but I went to the store since I don't have everything. But I do my own nails, ladies and gentlemen. I do all my own pedicures. I can't stand having anybody else mess with my toes. And especially with sharp instruments. Oh, no. No, 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 no. I don't care how much I trust you, you're not taking something sharp to my toes. Ooh, a lot darker, ick. Okay. Dry fast. Now, unfortunately, ended up without my own camera, and I haven't even tried this one yet, so we'll see, you guys, if I can use I've never tried a disposable, so we'll see. Do you have to turn them on? Anybody know? You just have to give me directions. I can do it. I'm mechanically brain dead, but other than that, she's hurrying me. I have a friend that allows for about 1 minute, and then she goes, "It's a finger thing. Let me do it." Yep. She has a very low frustration tolerance herself. I want to tell everybody that this is the best thing ever invented for me, the Purell gel. Somebody should have invented that when I was in high school, because I've always had a problem being able to go places. I've actually sat on the corner of a sink and had it come out of a wall. Of course, I was 50 pounds heavier then, but still. I'm going to have some of my water. And I'm going to do the coup de grace as my last thing, and then we'll start talking about how we train for this kind of thing. But I can actually thread a sewing machine and use a sewing machine. I was blessed enough to have people in my life growing up that stepped up to the plate. Pearl Johnson was the home economics teacher in junior high school. And of course the administration said I couldn't do it and I would never be able to do it. And she said, "I'll teach her how to sew. We'll figure it out." So we put me on a stool. I always seem to work best if things are a little bit below me, or even with my butt where I'm sitting. And I thread the machine, and I put the foot pedal up on the desk and put my heel on it, and I feed the material through and do the back and forth and feed the material through. Lost a lot of weight, took a lot of clothes in. I'm getting really good at it again because I don't really like to sew. So I'm going to try and thread a needle for y'all. Now I got to tell you, this is a sewing kit, and Wendy would never have scissors this small. Oh, have I blocked everything out? Okay. Now, you can be a cheater, and you can use this little thing. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it, where it goes through the hole. Okay. I'm not a cheater. Well, the thing is, it's a darn good thing I'm wearing these glasses because I'd never be able to do it without it. I wear reading glasses now. And I've actually found out recently that I have a visual field cut. So we are going to have to figure that out. And I'm not going to be able to get these to cut, I don't think. There. I just need you to cut me off a piece of the red. I think red will show best.
Okay.
That's long enough.
They're not good scissors. This is from the little sewing kit purchased upstairs. So
yeah, again, everything that I use usually is in my suitcase. And I usually use a needle that's got a little bit bigger hole.
Yeah.
Because I'm blind.
And can you tie the knot too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I can actually tie the knot with my teeth, but I can do it with my toes too. I have learned to be so good with my teeth as the helper, I can undo and do a necklace. Hold it, let me finish doing this. Let me concentrate.
She can undo and clasp a necklace behind her neck. She just told me that this morning.
I hook
That's
it.
Something new.
Yeah, I do it with my teeth.
In front of you. She just twirls her head. Yeah, yeah. The only thing I had to help her with this morning was putting the back to her earrings.
And that's because I
To
didn't
her
bring,
pierced ears.
my earrings didn't come.
Because you can do your own.
Yeah, I
She
have.
borrowed mine this
I wear
morning.
hoops and clips, so I don't use, unless I have somebody with me, I don't use my pierced earrings very much anymore at all. And this hole is too small.
That's okay, Wendy.
I'm not going to be able to
believe
get
it.
that.
We definitely believe
But
it.
believe me that I can do it. And
We do. And don't y'all love her rings and her bracelet? I mean, her feet are really her hands, obviously. And
there's the knot. I can
There you
tie a cherry stem twice in my teeth, though. So Yeah, I can put 2 knots in
Not
it.
once, twice.
2 knots. And literally, what I do is I have to have a mirror, but I can take the clasp of the necklace and I pull back the little knob with my teeth.
Oh my goodness.
And I take the little circle and put it in there and let go. And and that's something I just had to sit and do because I didn't always want necklaces so long that I could put them over my head because then they're too long and they don't show. So that's how I do that. Let's talk a little bit about training.
Let me mention something too before we ease into that. Wendy obviously was born without arms. I'm not certain if that's come out in the discussion, and you probably by inference have realized that. But that's a really important distinction to know. The therapist, obviously, I'm speaking to the choir, but for those of you who really are impressed and amazed with what she's doing, indeed it is. But this is the way Wendy has been ever since she was born. She did have the opportunity to be fit with prostheses when she was young. In fact, she was fit with probably the first set of electric arms.
I was, the first set.
Out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I want to just comment just a couple minutes, I mean just for a minute, about your thoughts and experience about,
yes.
And how old you were, Wendy?
Yes. My first hospitalization for fitting and prosthetic training was at 10 months old. I was on the leading edge of technology at the time. I was with a grant. It started out of the Chicago Institute and ended up at Mary Free Bed Hospital in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The Canadians had developed the motor and everything, and we, basically the United States put it together and developed it with the Canadians. And the doctors that I had, a lot of kids were being born with birth defects due to similar drugs in this country, similar to thalidomide. We didn't have thalidomide in this country in 1958 when my mom was pregnant with me, but she got something similar to that. And so when I started, I did prosthetic training inpatient and outpatient until I was 12 years old. They were bilateral. One had the power in it. It had all the batteries in on the right side, and then the left side was the powered side, and it had a power elbow that went up and down. And we worked on the terminal device and changed some things. And finally, at the end, I was like, you guys got to make the wrist turn because I can't stand carrying a swivel spoon for the rest of my life. And that's when they first made the first turning wrist. And what I did was I actually, to keep it in place, you flipped a switch and it locked it in so I could write. And I am very, very lucky that I had that opportunity, and I think that people should have the opportunity to try prosthesis. Diana and I work with children who are born this way, and children who have lost at young ages. We've both worked with them, and I've worked, I team with her, she's the expert. But, and basically, I think everybody should have that chance to try them. And when I worked at Shriners, that was my belief. I mean, you know, let's put it on, and we got all the money. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see if they like them, and see if it helps them at all. Now, when you start, all of you prosthetists and therapists out here, but the rest of you may not realize that when you start replicating mechanically every joint, you're really losing a lot of function. So to go all the way to the shoulder disartic level, you really don't have a whole lot of function in those arms. Riding was a whole body movement. They were hot, they were heavy, but it was really neat. And I thank God all the time for those 12 years of blessings of those people, because I know that Ann Fisher, my occupational therapist, I know that she figured out how to dress me. She thought it up. Nobody else had those skills before. So it's really neat. And I was paired with 2 other children like myself, and they had different kinds of prosthetics, and we were brought in every time together. So it was a great experience for me, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world, because right now I'm an occupational therapist, and I do what I do because of that. So I think it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the audience, any of you born without a limb or 2? Oh, Kim. Okay, great. Anyone else? Oh, I know you.
There's another young lady who isn't here yet. She is. Her name is Nikki.
Okay. With bilateral
yes,
tumor?
And, but she's also missing.
Okay.
She's amyelic one side.
Okay.
And phocomelic on the other side.
One important distinction and quality, so to speak, for what Wendy, those of you who have chosen to not wear prostheses, obviously know, and that is the valuable asset of sensation. As soon as you put on prostheses, you lose the ability to feel and touch, obviously. So that is another real motivator, obviously, for someone like Wendy to not really look at even the possibility or option of even very advanced arms in the near or distant future.
Really, the only thing now, since I've been here this weekend, I've of course been brainstorming and thinking about myself, and the only reason I would want one, and I'd want one on one side, is to pull the suitcase and to lift things. Because after the OTs that were here, when I watched the girl from Shriners, oh my God, what a great video, you guys. Fantastic. I fell in love with her. She is so cool. But how would I have carried a baby, baby carriage, a baby carrier? And that kind of thing would be a whole lot better, I think, that way. I know Brian, the only reason he still uses his arms, one of the guys I grew up with, is because he carries his briefcases. He's a lawyer. And he has to be able to hook his terminal devices and go. So that would be a good reason to have one. I can see now why it would be an okay thing. But for me, I have developed, through 48 years of doing this, I have developed so many techniques. I mean, my suitcase, I just put a belt on it. And actually, I put 2 belts on it if it's a small one, so it's long in my shoulder, and off I go. So, plus, I've developed amazing jaw strength. I can pick up 25 and 30 pounds of litter in my teeth in the bag. I have jaw strength that is amazing. So I can actually pick up my medium-sized suitcase full and put it into my trunk with my teeth. So, but my, and I don't have TMJ yet, which is weird. But my dentist is concerned about the wearing down of my teeth. So if you're going to, if you're going to be a mouth user too, you have to be aware that you have to protect those teeth too, because they're not going to stick around forever. And he and I giggle all the time about dentures aren't going to work, because when I pick up litter, they're going to come right out. So we have to have a limitation on that of what I use my teeth for.
Why don't you talk a little bit about flexibility training, particularly for the purpose of the therapists that are here and some of you in the audience without arms who may consider increasing your flexibility to do some of the things that Wendy does. But needless to say, excuse me, at midlife, it's awfully difficult to develop some of the skills that you see Wendy demonstrating now.
And Diane and I have worked with the adults and tried to and showed them and things, and I really don't know how those 8 guys how many of them ever did it. I know when I walked in that time, they were totally, I had had lunch, and she said they're totally against foot skills. So what I did was I said, oh, they'll be fine. And Diane and I were just learning each other and really and just starting to get together and work together. And when I went in, they had a pitcher of iced tea in the front, full to the top. And I said, Diane, would you like a glass of tea? Yes, please. So I picked up that full pitcher and poured. It had a stem to glass. And I picked up the glass and I poured a glass, asked her if she wanted lemon and sugar, picked it up in my chin, took it back to her, handed it to her, and I had them all hooked.
Yeah, their eyes and the spouses, they were all, actually, there were 3. 3 bilateral SD, shoulder disarticulation amputee. Gentlemen happened to be at TIRR at the same time. Well, I kind of orchestrated that a bit because I really saw the incredible value of them being able to share their experience together as well as their spouses. So I also engaged Wendy to come and spend a good day with them. But I think it was really a very moving experience for them in many regards, just to see the potential of what someone without arms could do.
Okay, let's start talking about how we train them as therapists and as individuals training yourselves. First of all, this is where you get your PTs involved. OTs, I know we all know how to do passive range of motion and stretching, all that. But get your PTs involved because they know the bottom structure better than we do, unless you're really versed in it. I'm not as good. I learned it as soon as I had my meniscus tear surgery. I learned a whole bunch about my lower extremities and musculature and where they attach and stuff that I never knew. But that's where you really got to get them going. It's not a strengthening thing. It's a flexibility, range of motion type of thing. I also want to encourage all of you who are amputees, where you guys are doing a lot of sitting and stuff, and you're going to have shortening in your hip flexors, which make your hips go like this. So what's really important is to develop a whole stretching program, okay? And I do it constantly. You'll see me in here because my knee's still not right. I mean, I stretch my knees all the time. My hips are so important. I'm always stretching my IT bands as much as I can, okay? And I'm starting to have some problems with my hips. And it's even gotten to be even more important as I'm aging that I do this twice a day. I didn't have to do this 10, 15 years ago. I didn't have to stretch and do all that at all. But I'm learning the importance of what that is. So I think that's where you really start getting your PTs involved and developing that program. Especially because after working with a PT after my knee surgery, that guy could put me into stretch like I can't put me into stretch. And so that's really important, that you get the extra stretch in there from somebody else, so that even if you're doing it at home, you have a little bit of added help. Starting the foot skills training in toe dexterity. You really need, again, start passively ranging of motion to get, I have really good spreading. I can type, I have such good control that when I type, all of these all my fingers on this foot do the home row keys up and down, and I don't really have to look. This foot, I don't have control of the fourth toe. So the baby toe does those keys, and the other three are on the home row keys that you're supposed to be on, okay? So you really want to get a range. Now my friend Barbie, Mom wouldn't give me piano lessons because she didn't think I'd be able to do it, so she couldn't really afford it at that point. We were pretty poor when we were little. Barbie plays the piano like a queen. And
Barbie is just like, Barbie lost her arms at 2.5.
Yeah.
But she plays the piano.
And the organ for her church. I mean, it's just astounding. Yeah. And the first time I saw her do it, I called my mom. I was at Diane's house, I think, your mom's. And she was playing. I called my mother, and I didn't even say hello. I went, listen to this. And then I went, keep playing, Barbie. And then I went, she's playing with her feet. And then you start the toe dexterity with picking up larger objects, manipulating larger objects, our 1-inch square blocks, putting them into things, and moving into the smaller stuff. I can pick a dime up off a smooth tile floor. I mean, that's how fine motor I can do. But that's where, occupational therapists, I shouldn't really have to say a whole lot more than that. Take it from the gross stuff and go more towards the fine and see where they can come. I actually hold a pen like this, with the 3-point grasp. But I've seen other people do it different ways, okay? There's a lot of different ways to get the leverage to write. I thought of something else besides the pen and writing just a second ago. Feeding. When I first started feeding myself, I now hold a spoon and a fork with a three-point grasp, okay? But what's a lot easier is I used to feed the spoon and fork through this way. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. So it's easier to scoop and do this. And that's how I did it when I was younger, okay? Now, I started out left-footed. I write left-footed, and then I drive left-footed. But after I had a leg length discrepancy and my knee was in a cast for like 2 months, and so I turned into a right-footer for everything else at that point. So I am truly ambidextrous. I peel potatoes both ways. And actually, when I can thread a needle, I can thread it both directions. So it's amazing some of the things I can do. Any questions about, that's just a down and dirty on training. That's just the beginning of where you go. I want to, again, emphasize that I am available to anybody. I am now trying to get my own business off the ground as a consultant doing this type of thing. I am available to you as clients, the individuals who are amputees and your families. Therapists, call me. Physicians, orthotists, prosthetists, feel free to call me. Again, I'm running out of business cards, but I do now have a website up. It's not linked to anything yet, and it's really not completed, but there's some really good pictures in there.
You want to share what it is?
Mm-hmm.
You want to share what it is?
Your
yes. Website?
It's Wendy Stoker, STOEKER.com.
It's easy.
Okay. Well, we figured it might as well just be underneath my name, and it would be much easier at this point. So
we have time for just a couple questions because
Good.
Let me just share with you. This afternoon during 4 to 6, we're going to have breakout sessions. One of them is going to be foot skills. It's going to be an opportunity for you to talk to the experts, so to speak. We're going to have 5 5 different, actually we're going to have a total of 8 different stations ongoing between 4 and 6, and there will be, quote unquote, an expert at each station that represents a different area of ADL and other aspects as well. So foot skills will be one of them. The uniqueness and the beauty of this afternoon's experience is that I think it probably will only attract perhaps maybe 5 to 10 of you at a time, since we have 8 going on concurrently. So you will have a much better opportunity to interact with either a clinician, an OT, or someone such as Wendy. So keep that in mind. But we have time for a couple questions. Yes, Karen?
Can you just make a comment about losing weight?
Yes.
Make a comment about
Good point.
weight and body size.
I'm great. Thank you so much for bringing it up. It makes a huge difference. That was one of the issues when I first met the 3 gentlemen with you. A couple of them had a pretty good sized belly on them, and you're going to have trouble. It's really important to everybody in this world to have good nutrition, and and I know that when you go through a hard time and things happen, a lot of people eat, and that's how you deal with it, and that's one of your coping skills, and that's one of mine. Okay, I mean, it has been for years. But a few years ago, I realized that we're the only mammal on the earth that doesn't eat just for nutrition. We're the only ones who eat for socialization. And because of that, we tend to overeat and eat too often. So I started learning to eat only when I was hungry. And I had a job at the time that was good for that. And I started paying attention. As soon as I wasn't hungry, I pushed it away. And I stopped. I've lost like 70 pounds total really over the last so many years. I actually tipped 200 at one point. And I'm 5'9", and I carried it well. Nobody would have guessed it, but I now weigh about 128, 130. And the difference is tremendous in the dressing and being able to take care of myself, but more importantly, the stress on my joints has really improved. My hips don't hurt near as all. I was ready to go have surgery, and my hips are really good. So comparatively what they were. And the weight loss has been everything. Really, it has really helped a major, major part. And it's really important. Sean? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll catch you to the right.
How frequently do you see your dentist?
Every 6 months. Until I chipped something. I actually was opening a bottle of something with my teeth because I couldn't get it. And I chipped off the back of my tooth. And I called and walked into the office, and he goes, I've just been waiting for you to come in with some weird thing that I'd get to fix, and he fixed it, and we're all on our way going on to the next one. So how about you in the front, Pam?
Do you see a difference like males versus females?
No, it's more I think than anything. And
That's a good question. Let's repeat the question.
Okay, the question was, do you see a difference between females and males in their flexibility? No, the guys that I know that don't have any arms are just as flexible as I am. But like Brian started, young too. He started with me. But Brian, it was really cool when I saw him again. Brian and I walked up to each other, hugged each other, and immediately sat on the floor, got our business cards out, and started talking, sitting on the floor. I mean, it's just boom. We didn't even question. And until then, I didn't recognize his mom. And I looked up at his mom, and I went, I recognize you now from this direction. I got it. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'd always seen her when I was sitting on the floor. So yeah, you can develop it. It doesn't, think about babies and when you change a diaper and how you can stick their foot in their mouth. Yeah. And you can almost wrap their legs around their head. They're rubber. And I've stayed pretty rubbery, considering.
Without a doubt. Okay, we need
Joanna,
real quickly.
He's not as flexible as most babies are, because I've worked with other children, and then you have a child who may not have that flexibility who grows up, even with therapy, even with training.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's happened, so there's always that, one child that doesn't.
Thank you for bringing that up. Children that don't have that kind of flexibility, and are they born with like different kinds of things, or is it just they don't have that flexibility?
Wow. And
Okay.
Joanna has a huge amount of experience, and actually I
Huge.
didn't realize that.
No,
thought
I didn't
babies
either.
were inherently gifted with. Yes.
And then what did you do, Joanna? Did you just come up with more adaptive equipment that would help them so that they could lengthen? More play, more play, more
There you
play.
go. That's a great idea. Real quick.
Okay, one more real quick.
Real quick.
Well, understand, and we got to reiterate this again. I am probably one of the exceptions to the biggest rule. I mean, I am really very unique and very talented and probably beyond what, but I also choose to be that way. I mean, there are some fine motor things that you wouldn't have to do. I mean, I wouldn't have to thread a needle. Good grief. And I want to say something else really quickly because I thought about it last night when I was falling asleep. Eric was showing about zipping his pants. What I did, one of the other things I did when I had pants with zippers, I went to a tailor and I had them take the button off and take a longer zipper and put it all the way to the top. So there were no buttons and no hooks, okay? And I have, what I have, it's really fine metal with a tip on the end and a leather strap, and I hook that in there and pull it all the way up with my teeth, and that carries in my purse. So it's a great way to do it. So there's another option for you with pants and zippers, okay?
Great. Thank you, Wendy.
Sorry if I
Let's
went
give her
over.
a round of applause. She is
Thank you.
tremendous.
I do a similar, or let me change that.
You want to give that to Wendy?
I do a similar thing to what Eric does with the heel thing.
That's okay.
Personally, I'm not cheap. I like plenty. Because I don't want it on my heel. Ooh. Okay. Growing up, I did it the way he was talking about. But let me tell you, boy, does that hurt my bad knee. So I've gone from that to changing to doing the side of the toilet method. And I sit it here. Now for ladies, this is the best thing. What I do for when you pee and you're going somewhere and, it would take too long and too much every time to go down on my knee. So I just finally started, actually 6 years ago when we were here, I got this, somebody gave me the idea. So I fold it and put it there before I start peeing. I pee, I switch, push it in, and I'm gone, okay? So now what I'm doing, instead of going down on my knee, I'm using that same method for wiping my hiney. But the positioning of this is different in the bathtub. I am able, in the bathtub, because it doesn't take me going straight down on my knee, I can actually sit down crooked like this on it, and I can wash back here. But when I come down this way, and I'm down with one knee, I can't get there anymore. So it's an aging thing, too, that you may have to make adaptations and do it a different way as you go. Quickly, females, menstrual cycle. I use tampons. Up until I hurt my knee, all I would do is I would push the tampon out almost the whole way, take the extender back out so it was a little longer, sit on it, use my heel to push it in the rest of the way, and use my heel to knock it away. Okay, I may be the wrong direction. Use my heel to knock it away. Okay, and then I sit on the edge of the toilet like this, put my heel on the string, and stand up, and it takes it right out. Now what I've done, because of my knee happening, I actually had to go back to, when I first hurt my knee, had to go back to wearing underwear and pads. So that's always the cool way. I mean, that was great when they invented those with the sticky, and no more garters. But I use, what I decided to do is I took the yeast infection applicator and I stick the tampon on the end of that, and it makes it like this long. It's so much easier. So that's how I do it now. Any questions? That was down and easy there, yeah. Dirty. Really quick.
Question for Laura.
He had a question about putting on bras.
Oh. I talked about that yesterday. I fasten my bras first, and then I put them over my head like my shirt, and I pull it down. I grab the strap on this side and get it down over that breast. And I can usually reach this one and do it here, or else I use my dresser drawer knob to go over to hook the strap on and pull it down and get them on my shoulders, and then I do the adjusting with the little hook kind of thing. That's pretty much how I do it. I had to go buy off the rack real quick, didn't even know if these were going to fit. And it's kind of a good bra I put on. I'm going to show you really quickly how I wash. I soap up the cloth. I do here, here, around my breasts. I use this part of my leg to get more on this side. And under this one, I have a very deep innie belly button. So I clean it real good with my heel, wash my legs. I do all this sitting in the bathtub, and then I do the heel thing for washing my backside of my crotch. And usually what I do is I squeeze the soap over my shoulders for my back, because I take baths and I soak, and I figure most of the dirt's in there anyway, and has been washed off. So,
As far as the bra issue, I use sports bras.
yes, sports bras are really good, and I want you to know if you don't have very much shoulders, they are got really great bras out there now that have crossbacks that aren't that athletic bras made out of that material. They're real bras, but they have the straps. I have one on, so any females who want to see it, they really have helped me out because I have no shoulders, and that was one of the issues growing up. My mom, we couldn't figure out how to keep them on.
This question.
Another thing I'd like to point out is bowel and bladder training. When I travel, I'm very aware of how much I drink, because like the one flight was 3 hours, and all of you that were here yesterday heard my scary little story on the airplane. And I don't ever want that to happen again. So I refuse to go in the bathroom on one of those, but I'm going to be going to Europe. That'll be weird. So, you know, you really have to watch how much fluid intake you take that day before. You know, and then if you got to get your fluids, do it wherever when you finally get wherever you're going. And we've already talked about bowel management, and literally you can get on a training where, you know, it's pretty normal. But again, you're going to have those times when, oops, you're in trouble. So you have to have an alternate technique.
One more question, and then Eric has just a couple short videos he'd like to share about his special technique, bathing. Yes, ma'am.
You guys have a certain brand of toilet paper that you use. I'm sure 1-ply is not as good as 2-ply, but...
Charmin is really bad for my septic tank. I use Northern because it doesn't have any perfume in it. I mean, it really doesn't matter. My dad was very cheap and stole motel toilet paper. And yes, I wiped with sandpaper at his house.
Ouch.
Dad was cheap.
Eric?
I would like to just point out that there is a new device. Well, it's not really new. My stepdad found it a few years ago for me when I was still having a regular bathtub instead of my garden tub. And I used to stand up each time and rinse my hair underneath the faucet. Well, think about the danger, you know, getting up and down 3 times. So a little bit more danger that was added to it. Well, my stepdad found the coolest thing. It is a wall-mounted handheld shower head, and it can again be reattached up at the top for people who aren't amputees, but it can actually be positioned right above the faucet so that it was this high away from me when I was sitting in the bathtub, and so all I had to do was sit there and rinse my hair. It's the best shower I ever had. It was really great. So it's neat to see that some things are a little bit different, and that's really different than having them where they're hooked up to the top that most of us therapists are used to.
I do my shaving my legs in the bathtub.
Excuse me. One more question.
I do my shaving my legs in the bathtub with my feet. I'll actually hold the razor much like you hold your pen, and you know, just turn my leg as I go and then go to the other side. But I have, you know, part of my limb, so getting my armpits, I haven't really figured out a way other than yelling for Jared.
God in His infinite wisdom decided, even though He didn't give me armpits, He gave me armpits. I think He has a real weird sense of humor. But what I do is I hold it like this, and I go like this. And I can do it that way and this way. Now, what I would suggest for you is you might want to mount it somewhere in your shower. Right. So that you can raise your arm up and just...
I would mount it, maybe on a suction cup or whatever.
That's what I would
showers at a place.
Do your up and down motion.
I use Nair. Yeah, and I just spread the Nair, and I actually use a plastic spoon from the kitchen, this long, and I put it on the back of it, and I spread it there, and I sit and I wait, and then I go take a bath and wash it off. And so I have my bikini line, because that's skinny enough to wear one now.
Underarm deodorant.
I wear spray just because I don't really have armpits, but I sweat my breasts. So I use a powdered spray usually and spray myself. So I don't know what he does. Oh, here you go.
A hinge, a door hinge, and I put it up here. I usually put it on my arms. I rest my stump up here, and it squirts it. I do the other side. It works very well for me. It's just a hinge and a water pipe ground clamp.
And again, you could mount something that if you like, if you prefer the solid, you can mount that and use that somehow that way.
Yeah, they have some little clamps you can get at Home Depot that work well to hold a solid deodorant, and then you just clamp it on the counter.